All right, today we're jumping into a really fascinating and, honestly, a totally misunderstood group of people, the prophets of ancient Israel.
So, when I say the word prophet, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Seriously, just take a second. What do you see?
I'm going to guess it's something like a mystic, right? Maybe with a crystal ball, making these super vague predictions about the future. Yeah, that's the pop culture version. But what if I told you that picture is almost completely, totally wrong? Okay, so this is where we just have to flip that whole idea on its head. The main job of an ancient Israelite prophet wasn't about being a future teller, it was about being a truth teller. They weren't just some passive, mystical figures. No way. They were super active, very public people whose entire role was to look at the world around them, right then and there, and call it like they saw it.
So let's actually redefine what a prophet was. I want you to just toss out that crystal ball image for a second. A much, much better way to think about them, God's whistleblower. And this isn't just a modern idea. If you go back to the original Hebrew, the word is nabi, and what it means is absolutely key. It has nothing to do with seeing the future. It literally means one who is called, or even better, a spokesperson. Think of it like being an authorized speaker for someone else. They believe they had a specific message to deliver to a very specific group of people.
So yeah, the best modern comparison isn't a psychic. It's a whistleblower. You know, that person inside a company or a government who sees something wrong, corruption, injustice, you name it, and has the guts to speak up about it, to bring the truth to light, even if it means going up against the most powerful people around.
So if you were to write a job description for a prophet, it'd basically have 3 parts. Step 1, listen to God. They believed they were getting a divine take on the state of the nation. Step 2, speak to the people. This wasn't a private message. They had to go public with it, no fear. And step 3, and this was for sure the most dangerous part, confront power. We're talking about walking right up to kings, priests, and the super rich and calling them out.
Okay, so that's what they did, but how do we even know all this? Well, the stories and speeches we have come to us from 2 main, let's call them tracks, in the ancient texts. Basically, you can split the prophets into 2 big groups. First, you've got the former prophets. Think of guys like Nathan or Elijah. We don't have books by them, but they are major characters in the historical books. We read stories about what they did. Then you have the latter prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Amos. These guys have whole books named after them, and those books are basically collections of their own words, their speeches and poems.
And here's a perfect example of a former prophet in action. You have the prophet Nathan going to King David right after David has done something terrible, a huge abuse of power. Nathan doesn't just accuse him, he tells him this clever story, and David gets all angry and condemns the bad guy in the story, and that's when Nathan just points right at him and says, "You are the man." Wow. I mean, what a moment, right? It's this high-stakes, dramatic showdown, all recorded in the narrative.
Now compare that to the latter prophets. A book like Hosea starts completely differently. It doesn't tell a story about Hosea. It just kicks right off with his own words. The word of the Lord that came to Hosea. See the difference? It's basically a published collection of his speeches.
So, okay, we have these 2 types of sources, stories about prophets and the words of prophets. But what were they all actually saying? What was their core message? It turns out it's incredibly consistent.
Yeah, they really weren't trying to predict some far-off apocalypse 1,000 years in the future. Not at all. They were absolutely laser-focused on the moral emergencies happening in their own cities, on their own streets. Things like political corruption, economic greed, and how the poor were being treated. It was all about the here and now.
And when you actually break down what they talked about most, the pattern is just undeniable. Sure, they talked about things like loyalty to God's covenant and gave warnings about consequences, but look at this. The single biggest piece of the pie, a massive 40%, was all about demanding justice for the poor and the vulnerable. And if you add the 20% that was a critique of the rich, well, you see the picture. Social and economic justice wasn't just a theme, it was the theme.
In this line from the prophet Amos, it might be the single best summary of their entire message. Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. It's so powerful. He's saying, look, I don't want more religious ceremonies or fancy sacrifices. I want a society where justice is as common and constant as a river that never runs dry.
And it's this relentless, passionate focus on justice that explains why these ancient figures have had such a huge, lasting impact. I mean, their legacy is just incredible, reaching far, far beyond their own time.
You can literally trace the ripple effect of their words through thousands of years of history. Their ethical ideas became a cornerstone for both Judaism and Christianity. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and you have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s constantly quoting guys like Amos to give moral power to the civil rights movement. And that same fire, that same call to speak truth to power, is still inspiring social justice movements all over the world today.
So, what's the big idea here? What's the main takeaway? I think it's this. The prophets created this powerful, unbreakable connection between what you believe and what you do. They made the case over and over again that true faith can't just be some private, personal thing. It has to walk out into the public square and become a loud, clear demand for justice, especially for those who have no voice.
And that really just leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If a prophet is someone who speaks truth to power, someone who confronts injustice, then who are the prophets of our time? Who are the people today, right now, speaking out for the vulnerable and challenging the powerful? That's a really good question to think about.